Okay, if you would, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay, if you would, everybody make sure your microphones are turned on. We have, everyone's here except Faye, who's maybe a little late getting here this evening. She had a prior meeting. So we do have a quorum. We need to take a quick look at the agenda, see if there are any additions or changes, and if not, see if we can have a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, motion's been made. Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Quick review of the minutes from the March 15th, 2023 workshop meeting. Let's make sure there are no corrections or changes needed.
I guess I read the minutes now.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, thank you. Motion's been made. Any second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes. All right, moving on to the public hearing. As always, we'll read through the case, see if Mr. Webb has anything to add, and also have the applicant have a chance to address the Planning Commission. Following that, if there's any public comment on the case, we'll have time for that. All right, first case, case number RZ04-23-4. Blue Ridge Ag LLC, Mr. Josh Hagee, has applied to rezone a roughly 8.9 acre portion of a 13.3 acre parcel from R1 Limited Residential to B1 General Business with conditions. If rezoned, the 8.9 acre B1 portion of the parcel would be utilized for a retail agricultural supply business specializing in small-scale homestead agricultural products, with the majority of the inventory being sold via online sales. The property would be improved by a single structure not to exceed 15,000 square feet in total floor area. The applicant has submitted a visual/map showing the proposed area to be rezoned. The subject parcel does not contain a postal address, but is located on North Seminole Trail, Brightwood, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 32-102. All right, Ligon, anything to add there?
So since the last time, I do have the signed proffers that are in the packet as promised. He did sign those. I have those here. The one change that was made, that we were, of course, we talked about this at 2 work sessions, so we've seen this for a few months, is that Mr. Hagee, again, it's mostly really a wholesale establishment where might have some pickups. He'll do some deliveries. Retail is not something that he intends to make a living off of, but I guess talking to him between the last work workshop. He doesn't want to totally take out the possibility if someone stops by. I think he probably could have easily just said, look, I'm not going to do any retail, and but I think he's just being frank with us and being honest, which we appreciate. So we decided that in the proffer to make a change, you can see number 5, on or before April 1st, 2025, a minimum 30-foot section of the site's driveway connecting to the entrance exit on North Seminole Trail shall be paved. Prior to this date, and/or obtaining a certificate of occupancy, so either or, whichever may come first, the entrance exit shall be designed by a licensed professional and submitted to review and approval of modifications as recommended by VDOT. So he's been talking to Marvin Hinchy, and I've talked to Marvin. I was on a conference call about some other things with John Wilson and Willis Bedsall, and they're comfortable with that. They don't anticipate for the volumes that it will need a turn lane, but ultimately it would be the engineer in VDOT who decide what he needs there. I think he really just needs to kind of build that up, an engineer drawing to build it up and pay. That will improve that a lot. The only real turning motion that and the VDOT folks really haven't brought this up, but is coming from the south, taking a right in. If you were looking for an address, that's the only sort of motion. If you're coming from the north, you've got plenty of sight distance. You come across that crossover. If you're coming out of it, very good sight distance. It's really, my caution is people who are turning into there coming from the south, traveling north. So other than that, I think we'll put it in the hands of the engineer and VDOT to look at it and approve that. He's comfortable with that. Other than that, that's really all that has changed. And of course, there is the parcel there. It is R1, just by the way. So really, by right, I mean, you still have to address the entrance, but by right, I think if you had, 1.5 acre lots, it is a 13 acre. I think you could easily, I mean, you look right in here. Of course, that does have a turn lane, this subdivision here, but you could easily generate more traffic, probably than what maybe his kind of retail wholesale business would.
Okay, does anyone have a question for Ligon on this?
Steve, I think I got 2 questions.
Yes, sir. Pete?
And again, I want everybody to understand, I'm all for business, and I'm not against anybody that's trying to do business and start business. But one of my concerns would be, Ligon, is he's got 2 years, according to what I'm reading here, to make this happen. So he will be able to operate out of his business there, use his containers or whatever for 2 years without doing any so-called VDOT work or highway work or building or anything like that. So we're gonna give him 2 years to be able to do this. Now, that's not something the county normally does, and that's why I'm asking that question. My other question is, in 23 months, let's say that, and I hope and pray that he does wonderful, he don't make it, and he says, I want to sell this property now. Do you know how many things are by right in B1?
Well, the conditions, and it runs with the land, eliminate everything except for that agricultural supply. So if somebody went to come back in and say, put a, I don't know, convenience store, they'd have to come back through and do another hearing, and that's in the proffers. And on the first question, I think if you look at number 5, the proffer, it's 2 years or before he gets a CO. So before he can get a CO for that, a certificate of occupancy for that building, he has to, have everything squared away with the engineer and VDOT. We'll kind of be the mediator, the county. So, he just can't put his building up and say, well, hey, look, okay, I'll wait. We'll put the building up. It's up and say, maybe say you had it up by December this year. You can't say, well, I've got another year before I have to worry about it. No, before he gets that CO, the proffer says he actually has to have that entrance designed and approved by VDOT. I really think a wide commercial type entrance is probably going to be adequate from my conversations with VDOT, but that's going to be up to the design engineer.
Ligon?
Yes, sir.
So, going along with what you're just talking about, it says that, for the 2 years, he just has to have something designed and submitted. Doesn't mean he has to do it. That's the way I read it. I mean, yeah, if he gets a CO on the building, it doesn't necessarily mean he has to put it in. But
Prior to this date, April 1st, 25, and/or obtaining a certificate of occupancy for the site's proposed structure, whichever may come first, the site's entrance exit shall be designed by a licensed professional engineer and submitted to VDOT. So he has to either have it by
it doesn't say he
April.
has to do the work, though. It just said it has to be submitted.
Yeah, design submitted, yeah.
Okay, we
That's the
can,
way I read it.
would you have any
Maybe I'm
problem we put completed in there, Josh? Okay, we can amend that and put
I mean,
completed.
there's two things, one's approval, one's being completed, so
All right, we can change that to, we can put the verbiage in there that's complete, as well as completed. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, any other questions for legal? All right, would the applicant like to address any questions or give us any comments? Yeah, and identify yourself, and make sure the mic is on.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshua Heggie from Greene County. Grew up down there on a poultry farm. I've really enjoyed Madison County so far. The last year and a half I've owned this property here. I have a short slideshow. Now a good time for that?
Yes, this would be the
Okay.
appropriate time.
So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about our business, my wife and I. So Shenandoah Homestead Supply, I started it by accident kind of in my teens, but it has grown. We supply stainless steel pails, strainers, milk buckets, all that kind of thing to small dairies. Give us just a
What's
minute to
doing?
get back. Blank screen.
You know what, I have it as a, sorry. Darn it. That's weird. All right.
The IT monster strikes again.
So I could just, maybe
Yeah.
address two questions in the meantime. The 2 years wasn't with the intention of dragging things out. I have been searching for fill dirt, and it has been difficult to find, and I requested that 2-year for that reason. I would welcome any leads on fill dirt while we're on that subject to continue raising that entrance. And then the concern of containers, I would love to be out of containers and have a building long before 2 years. But containers are not convenient, so the goal is definitely to move out of those. Again, the goal wasn't to prolong things, it was just to give me enough time to maybe make it happen. So a little bit about the business again, back to the slideshow. A lot of dairy equipment for a lot of dairies declined in the 80s, and a lot of you know more about that than I do, and then the 90s and since, most dairies have gone out and the big dairies come in. And with that, a lot of the small equipment was discontinued by the American manufacturers. And so now you have folks that are trying to get back to the land, that are trying to learn again how to make their own food, how to farm, how to milk their own animals, and they find that they don't have the equipment. And so we've taken some of those old designs and we have brought them back into production and made some new designs based on what people need, what people tell us. Just small farmers. We actually supply quite a few dairies around the country, and then just small backyard homestead type people. And interestingly, there's an organization called Homesteaders of America based right here, well, up in Rixieville. A couple of their staff are from right here in Madison. National organizations. Really interesting to have right here local. That's my family, and my wife Candace and our 3 daughters, Kiera, and Eden, and Dahlia. Just wanted to show you them because that's a big part of the business. Our vision was to have a place to work with our children when they're older, have a place to work from home. So that's the lot, of course, and the proposed clearing, that little, whatever shape that is, the block in the middle is slightly less than an acre out of the 13-acre lot, and then the white outline is roughly the outline of a building. And then that's the driveway coming in there. It's just a rough drawing on the left there to show you the access to the property. There were some questions on that. That Coop or Co-op Road, whatever it is, over on the opposite side of 29 comes around in a loop. So you can actually use that if needed to stop at that stop sign and then cross to go in. Or take a right turn down off 29. And that's just a really rough concept visualization of a proposed building. I don't have plans per se yet. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do
Yes.
have one question. I am reading paragraph 4. Is a 10,000 square foot building all you need? It says will not likely exceed, but then it is, but the ceiling on how big the building is 15,000 square feet. So you're asking for 15,000 square feet, but you think you're not going to use it, or? I'm just curious about how that came about.
Yeah, that is correct. I would anticipate 10,000, but didn't really want to be locked into that. Say 5 years from now, it looks like I should have found a 15,000 square foot. It was just to give me some flexibility there for growth, I guess.
Okay, it's flexibility of a 50% increase in the size of the building. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just-
that was my recommendation, just because he had always said 10,000. And I said, I have found in this business that sometimes plans do change a little bit. And, from a warehouse, the difference in 10,000 and about 15,000, I mean, it's pretty negligible when you talk about warehouses. So I recommended that, that he just if it comes down to 12,000 one, he's still under that limit. But again, he feels very comfortable with 10,000. That's what he's always said, so.
Okay, any other question for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this application? Any public comment? All right, if not, can I have a recommendation on this?
I got a question
Yes.
I'd like to ask Sean.
Mhm.
Sean, if we let this gentleman go do his business as he is right now, and he has 2 years to get his business somewhat completed, what he's got a vision of what he wants it to look like, are we setting a precedence where other people could say, I want to run my business and I'll build it as I go along?
That's an interesting question, and I think that's really kind of the essence of how small business works. And what you would be doing is including some breathing room in this proposal. That is not that unusual. In terms of whether it's a precedent, I would say not necessarily. I can understand some circumstances where people may raise the issue, but if the Planning Commission and then the Board of Supervisors are satisfied that there are good business reasons and good common sense reasons for approving this, the board would have the right to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other concerns or questions or discussion? All right, if not, could I have a motion for a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that case number RZ 0423-4 be recommended to the Board of Supervisors for approval with the change in line 5 to be changed to completed for the work for the,
Condition 5.
Second.
All right, motion has been made for recommendation for approval with one word change and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will be recommending this case for approval. All right, since the rest of these, Ligon, are previews, do you want me to read those and then you read them again, or you want me to
You know,
read
we
them and you discuss them?
we don't really have to read the whole case, but I just want it to, while everyone's in the same room, really for the board's benefit, to just, let me just downsize this some. I can see
Okay,
how to
in the
do
interest
that.
of time, then why don't we just do that, and you mention the case and then go
Right.
ahead and, yeah.
So this is right here, I'll just say, right here is sort of just to the north of 711 on US 29. It's a 2.5 acre parcel. And this gentleman, this will be at May 3rd. He's applying for a special use permit for mini storage units. He's working with VDOT. Mini storage units are not a high traffic volume creator, so the entrance there is adequate for this use. Just to show you right here, this is what he's looking at, up to 8 buildings and 200 units. I think Mr. O'Bannon over on Fishback was 600 to 800 units on 5 or 6 acres, so that's kind of in line with the typical mini storage unit. They would have to submit a site plan, stormwater plan, erosion sediment. And these folks, the owner is out of Fredericksburg and owns a contracting business, so they really have submitted a very nice visuals and package for what they're proposing to do. So that's that one. Just wanted, like I said, is this okay, Mr. Steve, to kind of move like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
that's
And then the next one.
Yeah.
Might have heard of solar. So this is a commercial solar installation. Again, this is scheduled for May 3rd. This is what they're proposing. The solar, there's 3 elements to this. It's a rezoning to M1. It's then a special use permit for a commercial solar facility, which is a special use in M1. And then there's another part, there's a siting agreement. Siting agreement goes over all the conditions of the agreement between the county and the Louth Callan and the folks that are developing this. I have an agreement that was given to me from Virginia Association of Counties. It was for a company in Sussex County, Virginia, that applied for a solar installation, much larger installation. But I think we have a very good guide to write a siting agreement. But remember, if you don't prove the rezoning, that's it. It's a rezoning. If you prove that, then you would approve the special use permit, and then you would approve so there's sort of 3 potential motions in this hearing. One thing that I talked to VACO yesterday, Mr. Lurch from VACO. Taxation is pretty clear. They have to pay property taxes, real estate taxes. We know that will be increased probably to about $10,000, $12,000 an acre based on typical assessment. The second one is they would pay a machinery and tools tax. They are requesting, as in Louth Callan, that we not do revenue sharing, that they will pay the machinery and tools tax. That's a step down every year, depreciates, so there's that. They have requested a 50% reduction on the machinery and tools tax and no revenue sharing. You kind of do either or. You can do machinery and tools tax or you can do revenue sharing. Revenue sharing is $1,400 a megawatt. This is like 16 megawatts. So that's fine. But what they're also offering, not revenue sharing, we can accept a capital payment. It's not revenue sharing, but a capital payment. The Sussex project did this. They are offering the county $100,000 a year for the life of the project in a capital payment. Now, Sussex actually stated that they were going to use it for EMS or some sort of infrastructure improvement. Madison's welcome to do that. We don't have to assign it at the actual siting agreement. But just FYI, they can make this capital payment, and again, they are offering $100,000 a year. They're offering to do half the M&T tax and obviously the real estate tax. So I will put together a spreadsheet that shows clearly what the revenues will be, and that was provided to me by VACO too. You can break it down every year, 25 years, 45 years. So we'll have that siting agreement done by next Friday when the packets go out for the Plan Commission's workshop on the 19th. So, of course, the board will get that email. You can look at it. I'm, like I said, working on it right now with Lau Callan to come up with it. At least as you consider this, you can look and see what at least the financial benefits may be to the county. Any questions on this? I just want, like I said, wanted everybody to just sort of hear this while we're all gathered together tonight. Right. And, okay,
Leland,
yep.
have we seen an actual agreement between Louth Callan and Rappahannock Electric?
So our ordinance requires, I believe, I'll have to look and say, I've sent that to them. Yeah, I mean, I'll ask them to provide us with whatever the agreement is. I mean, they have to have this approved by the regional energy grid. So I assume they have all those things. We'll find out. So I'm touching base with them. I had a conference call with them yesterday. I'll touch base with them to make sure that they have met all the items in our ordinance. So.
Steve,
Yes.
Ligon, would it be possible in our package if we had a number that showed what the tax revenue was created off of that property now and what it would be if it got rezoned and the solar farm was there?
That'd be very easy to do, yes.
Thank you.
I mean, it's in land use, so I can tell you it's a few $100 a year. So,
Just one point on that. Remember, if the county is contemplating passing a revenue sharing ordinance, which we have discussed from time to time, there would probably be three projections. The first, the way it's currently zoned. The second projection would be with the machinery and tools tax. And the third would be if the county passes a revenue sharing ordinance to the maximum, which was at $1,400 per kilowatt hour.
right, it's 1,400 for MW, megawatt.
Yeah.
six of-
Megawatt, excuse me.
But
I'm not good at math.
yeah, it's interesting that you can't charge more than 1,400, 1,400 per each megawatt a year for the revenue sharing. But you can do a capital investment, capital payment. I guess I don't think there's any limit. So
And on that point, I was concerned, y'all may recall, I voiced some concerns about the Dillon rule. Whether it violates the Dillon rule or not, I can't really tell you, but I can tell you that there is a statute that was passed by the Commonwealth of Virginia, I think in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, that allows in the context of these siting agreements for these cash payments. And Mr. Wright, I believe, has my folder on that, but that point being that, there is some additional work we will need to do in terms of the cost projections and that sort of thing.
yeah, the capital payment is much more than what the revenue sharing would be. I mean, there's no question about that.
Any other question for Ligon about this one? And you have any additional information there, Sean?
I do not.
Okay. All right. If not, let's go ahead to the last one here.
Sure. Ahmed Helmi, this is his special use permit application, SUP, to develop an event venue use on a 189.9 acre A1 zone parcel to be utilized for the following uses: up to 120 individual short-term lodging units, a spa tent structure, a lodge building containing a reception area and a restaurant, a maintenance building, an employee housing building, a storage shed, and a pavilion. This is a rough, well, it's not really rough. This would be the site plan, Kirtley Road. I did go on the site yesterday. I'm going to go back on Friday and walk the site. Didn't get very far because it's pretty grown up, real grown up. It's really, it's right off Kirtley Road. It's fairly isolated, a lot of buffering. It will need a lot of just cleaning up and brush. I could imagine you could probably spend $1 million just getting the site cleaned up and brush removed. I think there are a lot of trees that are in good shape. This is the Ford shop SUP in a different location, obviously slightly larger. The conditions, if you might recall, will be, we're right now working with Mr. Helmy, have that done by next Friday, be a busy week next week. The conditions are going to be exactly as you might recall the conditions were on the Ford shop, regarding, there are a whole host of things. The one thing that you will not see is, as far as the septic, that will be something that, as I've said before, in the last one, I said last one as the Ford shop proposal, the soil seemed to be pretty good out there, but he's obviously not going to do any testing. But if he cannot get, and that's what the last condition said on the Ford shop, if he cannot get those septic systems, those most conventional septics, and he'll have to reduce the request, modify it, bring it down in size. So that would be one difference than the Ford shop. But otherwise, when you see the conditions next week, maybe you'll refresh your memory what we put on those. But they were 8 pages, and I think there'll be good conditions as far as VDOT. We know a commercial entrance will have to go in there. There is right here is a 50-foot wide pipe stem. It's actually a separate lot right here. I think one of the things that was communicated to Mr. Helmy was on the Fort Shop one. It just really wasn't. I think we liked the idea, the work that he put into it, and I feel like he's, he has a very good track record with these type of proposals and seeing them through, whether he's the owner or somehow involved in the deal. I think we kind of thought, when we told him then, if you're closer to a major, 29, there'd be some things that would maybe make this work better as opposed to the one out kind of in the middle of rural area. So I do think it's a superior location. And outside of that, we'll have the conditions ready next week for the workshop. Any questions for me on this?
So you don't own the land all the way to Kirkley Road, it's a 50-foot right-of-way that comes to Kirkley Road, Liggett?
There's actually another parcel, a small, thin parcel, about 50 foot wide that comes to Kirtley.
Okay.
And it does touch James City over here. And the floodplain runs right about through the middle of it right here, but everything would be, I think these lines right here, these two dark lines, that's the floodplain. So anyway, just another FYI, what will be coming for and the letters will go out for the April 19th workshop. with all the adjacent landowners, so I would expect some folks will show up for that.
Okay, any other question for Ligon?
Mr. Chairman, can we go
Yes, sir.
back to the solar case? The statute, I think, was 15.1 dash, sorry, yeah, that's it. 15.2 dash 2316.7, which says that as part of the siting agreement, so that's where it would need to occur, is in the siting agreement, not the application. It can include financial compensation to the host locality, which is us, to address capital needs set out in the capital improvements plan adopted by the host locality, the current fiscal budget of the host locality, or fiscal fund balance policy. So it's pretty broad in terms of what the funding can be used for. The most important part of this in terms of the procedure is making sure that we have a siting agreement with the financial compensation to the county that works. And then the other part of that is making sure that we have a stream of revenue as a result of this project, whether that's from the shared revenues or whether it's just from the materials and tool, from the machinery and tools tax. One final point on it, and then I'll stop. These types of projects are typically challenged, so we need to make sure that we are following the procedures pretty carefully that are set forth in our ordinance. One of them's already been touched on in terms of the signed agreement with Rappahannock Electric. I would discourage the board from scheduling public hearings on this until all of those boxes have been checked. I'm getting pickier in my old age.
Excellent job of it. Thank you. All right. Any other, on either that or the Ahmed's case? Okay. Thank you, Ligon. All right. In that case, any other items from the Planning Commission or any other items from the public?
I've just got a kind of an out there question. So we had an issue where we had something in our thing a couple weeks ago about an emergency tower. What happened to that? We had the balloon test. Do we know what happened to that? Because I was there for the balloon test. What happened? Can you?
Where it'll be coming back to us, back to you all promptly.
Okay.
Within the next couple of months.
Okay.
Different location.
Different location. I was just wondering.
Okay. While we're asking questions, Ligon, the next meeting for the comp plan review group is
April 13th.
April 13th, so,
Yeah, and that email will go out Friday.
yeah. So for anyone in the public that wants to visit with us on that, that's what, are we going to try for 5:30 again?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the Planning Commission or the public? If not, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Motion has been made, seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.
Correct. All right. All right, I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, we do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this evening? Mr. Weekly, anything to add?
Mr. Chairman.
What would y'all like to do?
I move to approve the agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, public comment. General public comment. Nobody's watching us. Not a soul. There you go. All right, we're going to do public comment again at the end. Case number RZ-04-23-4, Blue Ridge Ag LLC, Mr. Josh Hagee, has applied to rezone a roughly 8.9 acre portion of 13.3 acre parcel from R1 Limited Residential to B1 General Business with conditions. If rezoned, the 8.9 acre B1 portion of the parcel would be utilized for a retail agricultural supply business specializing in small-scale homestead agricultural products. With the majority of the inventory being sold via online sales, the property would be improved by a single structure not to exceed 15,000 square feet in total floor space. The applicant has submitted a visual map showing the proposed area to be rezoned. The subject parcel does not contain a postal address but is located on North Seminole Trail, Brightwood, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County Tax Map as 32-102. Ligon, anything to add?
No, sir.
Anybody have any questions for Ligon?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Webb, just a clarification. Not that this has influenced my vote whatsoever, but Mr. Webb, what would, hypothetically, let's assume that this did not pass. How many houses could be built on that property as it's zoned now?
So it's 13 acres. Let me do a little math here. 13 acres, 13.9, isn't it? Or 14.3? Roughly, probably looking at 8 houses at least. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
By the time roads and all that, probably 8, yeah.
I've got one question. Well, actually, maybe two. One of them is kind of neither here nor there, but, you know, if this business explodes, I don't know why would we limit the size of the structure? I mean, I know we need to this time because we've advertised it and then you can't go higher than that. I've learned that from Sean. But just for future reference, why would we limit the structure to a certain size like that? I mean, maybe it takes off.
Right, and he could come in and amend it. I mean, and amend the permit. My thought, well, I think the thought was that size, you kind of have a little bit of, look, we got this little interest thing that we kind of keep our eye on and make sure everyone's on the same page with the entrance, that we know at 15,000, it's only going to generate so much traffic
I
at this
see.
size. If it was a 40,000, and again, warehouses aren't big traffic generators generally because they don't usually have a lot of employees. For the size of the warehouse, generally for a size business that has maybe 10,000 square feet, I mean, you could have an office that have a couple hundred people in it. But for that, he might be himself, maybe someone there, But yeah, if it does take off, maybe he'll be putting a nice turn lane in and adding, another 10,000 square feet. So that'd be a good problem to have.
All right. And so this is a conditional rezoning. And I know, when I was on the planning commission and talking to Betty and all that stuff, we would say, I'd ask her about something. She'd go, oh, it was a conditional rezoning. So does that find a separate spot in your files in there for conditional rezoning versus just rezoning?
Now, if you look at the map, it's still going to be like, we use, that light pink. So
Right.
it'll be, that portion of the parcel will be, that
It'll
color,
look like
business.
business, but
But
not a conditional
If,
type.
we never see Josh again after the night, and he sells it, and someone comes in and goes, I decided I'm gonna put a sheets there. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, you gotta go all the way back in because we got this signed statement.
Yeah, understood.
So,
I just, in the past, I've just, people have asked me about stuff that happened when I was on the planning commission. I was a conditional rezoning. So if you want to go review the conditions, go in here. So I didn't know, unless somebody remembers it, I didn't know how it was
yeah,
labeled.
it's important that,
no
and that's
big
why
deal.
sometimes we got them to actually record it in the land records. We've only done that one time, but it's our responsibility to make sure we keep these, and, they'll be up on our server and our case files. And,
Okay. All right. That's-
So, but yeah, if time passes, hopefully, if I'm not here, someone will know that, hey, that parcel was, has that record.
All right, other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Hagee, anything to add?
No, sir.
Any questions for Mr. Hagee? All right, back to the board. What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number RZ-04-23-4 as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? I gotta take a minute, because we talk about, like, we're doing the comp plan right now, and I listen to people when they're campaigning and everything. We talk about low-impact businesses from homegrown people, and we'll even take you since you're from Green. I mean, this is exactly what we were looking for. And the government hadn't done really anything for him other than just allowing him to do what he needs to do. I mean, he's the one that's done all the work, and congratulations. Thank you for picking Madison. Any other comments? All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Information and correspondence? All right. Public comment. Public comment. Haven't gained anybody, have we? All right. We do have a closed session. Thank you all.
So I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation, and 2.2-3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Appreciate that.